Prepare yourself. This video is going to get a little sweaty. After a little break from EU4, I was feeling in the mood to min-max. A little bit. And I didn't want to have to try this achievement twice. I actually recorded the entire campaign with no mic. I decided instead of acting like I was doing commentary in real time, that I would do something a little bit different. I had a lot of fun making this video, especially the bloopers at the end. I hope you guys have just as much fun watching it. But first, let's do a little something a little more lighthearted to cleanse the palate before we jump into the action. I haven't played in so long. What have I missed? I heard on Twitter that there's a new amazing mod for EU4, and I need to check it out. So let's load up. So what does this mod do? Oh yeah, lets us play Minesweeper. Better go with beginner. Kaboom! Riveting gameplay. Try again. Well, come on, give me somewhere to start. Damn. Oh, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. That means this isn't a bomb. If this is 2, and it's not bordering bombs anywhere over here, these two have to be bombs. Bam! Victory! Let's see. This is the part I hate. Just get it freaking started. Yay! I finally beat the expert. I'm an hour and 22 minutes into this video. No, but seriously, I think I know the perfect way to jump back in. True Heir of Timur. In 1483, a baby was born to royal family in Transoceania. At the age of 11, he would take control after a succession crisis supported by his paternal grandmother, and later he would take advantage of another succession crisis in Afghanistan, becoming the ruler of Kabul. From here, he would covet the rich lands of India and start the process of invasions that would eventually culminate in the formation of the Mughal Empire. Eventually, he would be known as Babur, and he is the true heir of Timur that we seek to emulate. However, when he died in 1530, the Mughal Empire simply stretched from Afghanistan to Bengal. Quite an accomplishment, but not what we will be accomplishing today. The height of the Mughal Empire saw them stretch nearly to the tip of India, but they never quite secured the allegiance of the Tamil kings or Ceylon. We will do both, and we will do it 150 years before their height. But first, we must look to our own independence. Shah Rukh is old. The Timurid Empire will splinter. We will not be vultures. We will be the tiger that causes the death. We will not pick at the corpse. During the war, Sheikh Quagersall proved his cunning, keeping his armies close to the defensive mountains of Kabul, watching his allies bleed to take Herat, spending more time putting down rebellions as he coaxed out every last bit of the economy and manpower of the region and prepared for coming conflicts once the war had ended. He showed his pragmatism as well when he accepted a peace with the Timurids at the first opportunity, letting them off the hook, as some would say, but is securing their independence without having to fight too deeply and bleed too badly. Knowing that the Timurids may one day not be so distracted and come back to assert their dominance over Afghanistan, Quagersall decided to attack immediately his neighbors to the east, targeting Ladakh within days of the peace with the Timurids, and following this up with an assault on Kashmir. Afghan armies had both wars handily under control by the end of 1447. Ladakh was incorporated into the empire, and the burning of Kashmir would show his power projection to his neighbors in a way that only the pillage of a capital can do. The forceful vassalage of the small state of Jaisalmer and the setting up of a Punjabi state signaled Quagersall's interest in lands currently held by Multan and the Sultanate of Delhi. In 1449, Quagersall proved his diplomatic prowess, securing a royal marriage and later alliance with the Sultanate of Jaunpur, as his new rivalry with the Sultanate of Delhi made them perfect allies. In 1450, Afghan armies would attack the Sultanate of Delhi, and as they laid siege to Delhi itself, Jaunpur would come to their assistance and help them clean up the armies of Delhi and their allies. Lahore and Delhi would fall relatively quickly, and by the end of the year, a peace treaty was signed. Jaunpur received little compensation for their involvement in the war. Punjab was greatly expanded, and Kabul came under control of quite a bit of territory. Quite quickly, they pivoted to attack south towards their new rival of Sindh, and Multan was increasingly feeling encircled. In the next series of wars, Quagersall again proved his cunning and pragmatism. Bringing his allies in Transoceania in against Sindh freed him to attack Multan and some of the small states along the Himalayan ridge that had allied themselves to Transoceania. This juggling of multiple wars was a consistent feature of the Afghan and later Mughal conquests of India and served them well. These northern conquests along the Himalayan ridge would help to secure what is still considered the northern border of India to this day. And the forceful securing of a vassal near the borders of Bengal would help to continue to cut off his nominal ally in Jaunpur from possible expansion routes, and give him the ability to attack nations such as Orissa and Bengal in the near future. The mid-1450s would see Quagersall pause in his conquests, focus on stabilizing the economy, pushing technology and the far-off Renaissance influence, trying to encourage that to come to the lands. He did attack the Timurids, in effect trying to isolate diplomatically some of the nations in India that had allied themselves to them, and was trying to re-secure the alliance with Jaunpur, who had been scorned by not being given any land in the major Delhi peace deals. The war with the Timurids lasted until late 1458. In 1459, Quagersall turned his attention back east to the Sultanate of Delhi, who had secured an alliance with Bengal. This was a problem, so he attacked Bengal in late 1459 and used this as a way to isolate the Sultanate of Delhi. He was unable to take land directly from Delhi, as they had not been declared upon directly, and he could not afford the hit to prestige and diplomatic power. However, he was able to isolate them. He was able to take land from Bengal and set himself up for a full conquest of Delhi in the near future. Following this conflict, Quagersall's armies would stay in the east, attacking some of the smaller states in the area and forcing a defense by Orissa. The victory against Orissa was seen by Quagersall as his last great conquest, and further proving his pragmatism, after having searched long and hard for a suitable heir, losing much prestige by disinheriting several members of his family, Quagersall passed rule to Zaman I on September 27th, 1465. Zaman I would go down in history as arguably the greatest ruler of the Mughal Empire. In fact, he would be the one to form it nearly 10 years later. But his first acts were to recall the army, a small war with Multan, and a build-up towards an eventual attack on the Sultanate of Delhi that would see him secure that future capital city. Like his father, Zaman would approach conquests with a hefty dose of pragmatism, securing alliances, vassalages, and other forms of tribute instead of always having to physically attack and take over lands. He would integrate several vassal states in his reign and establish several more. The propensity of the Mughal Empire to expand in this way complemented their conquests. They would do things like take Nagwar as a vassal while at the same time attacking Sindh to set what would eventually become the western border of India all the way up to the present day. And so it was May 19th, 1474, with his planned capital city in hand and the borders of India secure, Zaman I declared himself Emperor of the Mughal Empire and immediately began preparations for a clash with the only remaining North Indian power that hoped to stand against them. Once the war with Mewar was over, only the southern Indian powers of Bamanas and Vijayanagar could hope to hold a candle against the power of the new Mughal Empire. The accomplishment of forming the empire was apparently too much for our simulation to handle, as a game crashed in 1475. I think that's as good a time as any to talk to you guys. I haven't been around for a couple months, took a little bit of a hiatus, some vacations, a lot of work between it, some good and bad things happening in my life, all that stuff. But I'm back now, and I want to thank you guys who stuck around, any new people that are watching now. If you would be so kind as to maybe like and subscribe this video. I know it's annoying when content creators butt in to say that kind of thing, but it really does help, and if you don't ask, no one ever does it. Also, if you guys want to give me some feedback about the editing of this video, what you liked, what you didn't like, good or bad, if you found it interesting, how I could make it better, that sort of thing, I would also love to hear from you. So down in the comments below if you want to do that. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Zaman's ambitions for conquest in northern India were vast, but he also knew that investing in the development of his current lands would help him along these goals. He poured capital, both monetary and political, into improving the infrastructure and the ability for his lands to produce massive armies. So during the next few years, he kept the wars small, concise, grabbing important strategic provinces to help him build land connections to some of his disparate possessions and vassals. Powers outside of India were beginning to take notice of the 30-year meteoric rise of the Mughals since their independence from the Timurids. This was most evident when the Chinese Ming dynasty made moves to position themselves as a rival to the Mughals. You know something's going right when you're big enough to rival the Chinese. Zaman's next major military campaign came in the form of an attack on Orissa, much like his father's final conquest. Also like his father, Zaman was ruthlessly practical with his choosing of an heir, disinheriting several of his own children and other potential heirs if he did not feel that they were up to the task. As the calendar began to approach 1480, Zaman made a fateful decision, breaking the long-standing alliance with the Sultanate of Jaunpur, securing one with the Vijayanagar in the far south, and moving to attack Jaunpur in 1483. As the dust settled from this conflict and the peace treaty was signed, the Mughals now held land completely encompassing the Sultanate of Jaunpur. It is said that Zaman had a map commissioned and sent to his long-term allies in Cairo with the simple message, "Rate my encirclement." Unfortunately, the Mamluks failed to grasp the joke. The Mughals captured so much land during this period that Zaman was warned that the mechanics of government meant to incorporate these were being overtaxed, so he took to leaving enemy countries fully occupied and moving on to the next conflict, only signing the peace treaty when he was told that the civilian government was ready to take on the new territory. Several of these occupied states would scrounge together raiding forces, militias, and mercenaries and send them in an attempt to cause devastation in the Mughals' hinterlands. Mughal armies began to make sport of these, using them to train new cohorts and competing over who could kill the largest of them, down to the last man. Slowly but steadily, Mughal armies captured more and more land, and the map of northern India turned more and more green. But Zaman did not just conquer new lands. He focused on putting down rebellions, reducing autonomy across his empire, securing more revenues, more recruits, which all translated into more armies to continue to throw south. In 1492, even as events halfway across the world would change the course of European history, Emperor Zaman learned that the Timurids had announced their allegiance to the Sultanate of Jaunpur and their intention to defend that sultanate from any attack. This was obviously aimed at the Mughal Empire, and Zaman was incensed. He amassed his armies and marched directly for Herat. The Mughals had been free of Timurid subjugation for a generation, but following the sacking of Herat and the destruction of the Timurids' armies, never again would they meddle in the affairs of India. The armies returned from Persia as the new century was dawning, and Zaman paused to take stock. The nations of Vijayanagar, Bahmanis, Jaunpur, and Bengal were virtually the only remaining independent countries outside of the Mughal Empire in all of India. And many believe it was at this point that he resolved to stretch Mughal influence across the entirety of the subcontinent. Of course, he would not live to see that day, but he made a concerted effort to push towards that goal. In 1502, Mughal armies would split Jaunpur, leaving it a shadow of its former self. Bahmanis would feel their wrath in 1504, and Bengal's capital was captured in 1507, just before Zaman turned on his allies in Vijayanagar and attacked them late in the year. He was able to wrestle large portions of his vassal Andara's former possessions from his former ally. Perhaps sensing that his time was short, in 1516 Zaman turned around and attacked Bahmanis once again, breaking his truce for the first time in his reign. And Mughal armies dove deeper into Bahmanis than ever before. Zaman would not live to see the end of this particular conflict, as he died on January 1st, 1517, and his fourth son, Nikyusiyar, took control at the age of 32. There we are, finally. In the first few years of Nikyusiyar's reign, he would persecute many wars. Not only did he finish up the pending war with Bahmanis, but he launched another against Vijayanagar, taking large swaths of land, and a third that would eviscerate Bengal. He followed this up with two smaller wars which would help push the eastern edge of India. In fact, the first time he ruled the Mughal Empire at peace was nearly 4.5 years after he originally ascended. Peace treaties prevented the Mughal armies from continuing the conquest of India during this period. At first, Nikyusiyar attempted to wait them out, but he eventually lost his patience, and in 1523 he attacked Bahmanis several years before the peace treaty was up, judging that he was more willing to deal with the backlash than to continue to wait. In 1524, Nikyusiyar ordered the complete annexation of Bahmanis. He recognized that the Mughals' truce breaks and massive conquests were beginning to form a coalition of worried states surrounding India. And so, beginning in 1525 and extending throughout the end of the decade, he set about attacking some of those nations to keep them in truces, to suck their resources, money, and manpower, and continue to strengthen the Mughal Empire. In 1531, Mughal armies annihilated Bengal. This cemented the eastern border of India, and Nikyusiyar turned his focus south, towards Vijayanagar, the last remaining independent nation in India. The emperor would be robbed of his opportunity to finish them off, however, as he died waiting for the truce to be up. His son, Hussein Shah, was only 12 years old. Hussein's mother, Queen Regent Bahar Banu, would attack Vijayanagar in 1535, but was unable to secure the entirety of the kingdom. This task she would leave to her son, as he took the throne on December 24th, 1537. The final victory versus Vijayanagar would come on August 8th, 1539, the full annexation of the remainder of the Vijayanagari kingdom. And so, Hussein Shah Timurid cemented himself as the true heir of Timur. Then, in January 1543, the last Indian vassal of the Mughal Empire was incorporated. The empire was strong, its borders secure. And there we have it. Our Mughal Empire, I think, is pretty strong. Obviously, we are the first-ranked great power by some wide margin, and it'll be a little while before we get absolutism and imperialism, but we're already fairly well dominating. Just under 100 years. I think that's pretty good. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of this this video, this campaign, and what campaigns you like to see in the future. Also, What do you guys think of the True Heir of Timur achievement itself? It used to intimidate me quite a bit, but obviously I've just pulled it off, and I think I could have done it a good bit better with a little more planning. And there was a time when I never would have been able to even come close. Maybe I'm getting a little better, maybe the game's getting easier. Probably little column A, little column B. But yeah, which ones do you think are the most difficult? The Eat Your Greens one is the one that still probably intimidates me the most, but I'd be interested to know if I'm missing out or if I've underestimated this one or others. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. This has to be a bomb. I legitimately should have won that one. I clicked the wrong thing. Yeah, that was risky. I shouldn't have done that. So that clears this. Yeah, of course. Like, this one can't be a bomb. The other way around, doofus. Nor can this. How? 'Cause of fucking that. God damn it. That sucks. Oh, it came so close. Can't be. What? Ow. Wait, no, it had to have been a bomb. There was a one that... No, it was... Okay. I'm wrong. So that cannot be a bomb. How? That wasn't a bomb. Apparently that one's popular for being a bomb. I should probably put my merchant somewhere. Oh, I can't see any trade. Oh god, how do you clean this corner up? That's the level of Minesweeper for my brain. Let's go do something I'm actually good at. All glory to us. Oh, fuck yeah.